I built this massive castle in Minecraft Hardcore that now stands on top of this mountain, making it the largest build in this kingdom. It was probably one of the toughest builds I have done in this world yet, taking me several hundred days to complete. But now it finally stands tall, overlooking the massive empty space below. Yeah, not much of a kingdom, is it? So today I'm going to give this entire area a complete makeover and transform it into an awesome fishing village surrounded with some lush farmland. So get ready for some epic building because this is Minecraft Hardcore. I recently updated Minecraft, which means I now have access to the new pale oak blocks, which I think will be awesome to build with. But that means I have to travel thousands of blocks to unlock some new chunks in hopes of finding the new pale gardens. So I guess we better stock up on some rockets because we've got a long journey ahead. And I think I'm gonna head south because, well, why not? Okay, this looks like new terrain, so hopefully one will be nearby. Oh yeah, look at that. Yep, this is definitely the new power garden. So I should have probably repaired my axe first because I need a lot of wood. But luckily I have a spare, so we should be good. Let's also grab some saplings, pale moss, and a few of the new eye blossom flowers, which if I'm honest, I'm not completely sure what I make of them, but I'm gonna grab some anyway. And if I'm right, the creek can only spawn at night, so let's just work on gathering more blocks until nightfall. Oh my gosh. Dude, oh that made me jump. But I think as long as I look towards him, he won't attack me. And to kill it, I just have to break the heart, so I just need to find it. Dude, you are seriously creeping me out. Okay, so how do I even find the heart? Can we even hurt this dude? Ah, you have to hit him first. Now it makes sense. Oh my gosh, you are fast. And I think that's the heart. Did that kill him? Well, he's gone, so I guess we did. Oh, that's a creeper. Quick, quick, quick. Ah, I could really do without being attacked by zombies right now. Okay, I think the heart is up here. Yes. And he just turns to dust. Nice. Whoa, that was close. Do we even get anything from the heart? No, it doesn't look like it. But maybe I need to use Silk Touch. To be honest, I thought other mobs wouldn't spawn in this biome because they're just going to reduce the creaking spawn rates. Okay, that's one night over, so I'm guessing it's going to take some time to gather up a decent amount of resin. So I waited around for a second night, gathering up a few resources until it was dark. However, when nighttime came around, only one creaking actually spawned, which meant that I spent most of the night taking out other mobs instead. I even had to take on a bunch of zombies with the creaking, but at least I managed to obtain the heart this time by using Silk Touch. But obviously resin is going to take some time to gather, so I'll save that for another time. For now, I need to head back home so that we can start building. My goal today is to build up an awesome little fishing village. But first, I need to dig out a nice little river in a kind of S shape just along here. Then I can start working on a town, which is going to require a ton of building and a lot of terraforming. But we'll get onto that later. For now, let's work on that river. I honestly thought making a river would be an easy job, especially since I had a beacon to help speed up the process. However, it was a much bigger job than I expected. I started by chopping down all the trees until the area was clear, which took me way longer than it should have. Then with the trees all cleared, I placed down my beacon and I started digging out the river, which I thought I could do within a few hours. But as per usual, I completely underestimated just how much time it would take, leaving me digging away for the best part of an entire day in real life. In between that, I also repaired my bow and enchanted a bunch of books until I got Aqua Affinity, which I put on my helmet to make it much faster to mine the areas underwater. 2 real life days later, and I finally worked my way down to a good depth for the river, which was more of a slight curve than an S shape. But it looked good, so I placed down some mud, muddy mangrove roots, and some mangrove woods to make a nice, muddy looking riverbed. All that was left to do at this point was to simply fill the river with water buckets, which was much easier said than done, as some areas were really awkward to level out the water. But finally, after several days, I had all the water in place. So I quickly placed down some bone meal to finish off the riverbed and make it look a little bit nicer. At this point my tools were pretty busted, so I made a quick stop by the Enderman farm to repair my tools. And my tools are all repaired, which means that I'm finally ready to make a start on building this village and hopefully make the area look more complete. But first, let's strip down a bunch of dark oak wood, as I'm gonna need a ton of this and it is such a pain to strip down while I'm building, so this should save me some time at least. I started by building a small dock area for the fishermen, as I wanted the area to resemble the fishing island that I had previously built. So I went with a similar design using spruce slabs and trapdoors to add some texture whilst making it look slightly used. I also worked on some pathways using coarse dirt and rooted dirt to maintain that old fishing town vibe. Once I was in place, I started working on the first fisherman's hut, which was very simple and similar to one of the builds on the fishing island. However, this design did have a slightly rougher look, as I wanted the village to feel older and look a little bit more used than the city. Plus, I'm really starting to like that more textured look on builds. So, it's only a small build, but overall, I think it's a good start. It has a little market stall outside, some fishing nets over this side, and an interior with a wandering trader that must have snuck in while I wasn't looking. I'm watching you, buddy. There's also a nice little room in the back with a fireplace to keep them warm, and they're selling some fishing goods, such as fishing rods and fish. Yeah, I bet you couldn't have guessed that. Oh, and I also added a little clothesline for detail. So, overall, I'm really happy with how this one has turned out. It is similar to one of the designs on the fishing island, so it should help it blend into the area nicely. However, all the other main buildings will be completely new designs. So now that's all in place, I want to add another fisherman's hut somewhere over here, with a little bit of storage for the fish this time. But first I'm going to strip down some more of the dark oak logs. For this one I went with a slightly run down look using packed mud and mud bricks for the walls with dark oak pillars on the corner. Then moving on to the roof, I switched to mud bricks and jungle planks to help add a bit of texture for detail. And once the build was all in place, I added some finishing touches to make it look like it was being used and added an interior for a small storage area. I then jumped into the water to grab a bunch of fish, taking out a few drowns along the way. I also gathered a little bit of clay, which I mined into clay balls and then smelted into bricks so that I could craft some pots for detailing. And overall, I think this build looks awesome. Over the side, there is a fish market stall, which has a bunch of barrels to store all the fish. There's also some fresh fish on sale and a place to keep some live ones in here. Then if we come around this side, we also have a storage room for storing all the fishing goods. It's just basic, but it makes the room look better and feel like it's being used. Outside, I also have two little docks here, which I will add 1 or 2 fishing boats to a little bit later. But first, I need to do a little bit of terraforming and shape up the land with some pathways so that I can start adding some interest to the village. However, I don't have much rooted dirt at the moment, so let's see if we can find an azalea tree. And of course, I forgot my bed. Sorry, sheep. There we go. Ooh, and we have 2 azalea trees. Awesome. I'll also grab a little bit of this podzol while I'm here. And now I just need to get digging. Okay, I now have plenty of rooted dirt, but before I start terraforming, let's quickly get a better source of food from our lovely villagers. Golden carrots should do the trick. And now we can get to work. My main goal for this area is to add some shape and elevation to the landscape, as I feel like large areas become very boring to build on. For me, elevation is key to building up cool sightlines and creating more of an interesting looking village. On flatter landscapes, you have to constantly build bigger and bigger to create any form of a sightline. But elevation helps you create those cool sightlines whilst keeping all of your builds in proportion to each other, which just makes the build look better overall. Just be sure to remember to light the area underneath so you don't end up with a crazy mob farm. Oh my gosh, these guys just keep spawning. Okay, I think we're safe again, but let's just place down a few more torches just in case. So I've got a few little pathways going up here with a decent bit of elevation, and I've also laid out some of the areas for some of the buildings. This one over here I think will be a flower shop with a little overhang just here and maybe a little market stall just underneath. Then as we come up here we can have a little bakery with a nice little seating area outside. And then for this building I'm not too sure just yet. Maybe a town hall, a library, or possibly even an inn. We'll just have to see how it goes. Oh yeah, and we just hit a new milestone in our stats, meaning that I have now mined over 500,000 stone blocks in game. And that's just stone, which is insane. So hopefully that means I won't have to do any more digging for a while. On the other hand, I do have a lot of building to do, so let's crack on. I gotta say, I absolutely love this build. It just looks so cozy and the colours work so well together. And then round the back I also added this little covered area, which I think I could use for a seating area for this build, as this one's gonna be a tavern. Seriously, Enderman stealing my grass again? Man, those guys drive me crazy. Like, why did Mojang give them the power to move blocks? I mean, it's just annoying more than anything else. Anyway, that's enough complaining. I have a tavern to build. Starting off with the foundation, I started working on a cellar which would hold all of the beer. And I've been trying to detail the interiors as I go along, as I don't want to end up with a bunch of empty interiors, as that's never happened before. Okay, that may be a lie. I might have missed 1 or 2 interiors. For the upper walls I went with the pale oak again, as I just think it looks awesome. Although I might come back and see if I can do a little bit of texturing for the walls, but overall I think this one is actually my new favourite woods in the game. For the roof I went with deep slate, texturing it with the tiles, bricks and cobbled variants. And then finally I detailed the build with some berry bushes, glowberries, leaves and some flowers, which really brought the place to life. Man, this place is really starting to look cozy. I love it. Although I still have a couple of details to add, so let's grab some red sandstone, orange wool, cyan wool, trapdoors and some fences. I'll also grab some carpet, and outside here we can use the walls to create a nice little sign for the tavern. Then if we come upstairs and go inside, you can see we have a nice little bar with some seating, some bookshelves over at the back there, a jukebox and even a fireplace. And if we go through the bar and head down to the cellar, you can see where we store all of the ale and beer for the villagers. And it's not overly detailed, but it certainly feels like a cellar, so I think it works. However, it does need a couple of details outside, so let's place down a redstone torch, piston, campfires, which I'll also extinguish, and some trapdoors to make a nice little table. But let's add some fences and trapdoors and then top those with some carpet. I think I'll go with white and orange and maybe white and cyan for a little splash of colour. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. Actually, let's add a couple of longer tables just under here. Although these ones won't have the umbrella because they have the overhang. And maybe some trapdoors for the back. Yeah, that looks so cool. From a distance, it looks even better. Yeah, I just love the way this one is shaping up now. This is really coming together. So next up I want to build a bigger building just up here. I'm thinking maybe a town hall, a library or possibly even an inn. Let me know what you think it should be in the comments and I'll detail it in next episode. But with that being said, let's get back to building. I wanted this building to have a slightly nicer look than the others. So for the floor I placed down alternating oak logs which are stripped for a sort of tiled looking design. Once the flooring was all in place, I started by building up the lower levels using a combination of tough blocks and mossy cobblestone, which I think works so well together. Then for the upper walls I went with pale oak for one part of the build and then stripped oak for the other part, which gave it a very unique look. From there I moved on to the roof where I wanted to try something a little different. So I used polished granite for the border and then used bricks and granite for the roof, which I think worked really well together, giving the build a bit more of a grand appearance. Okay, I think this one's turned out pretty good, and we do have 2 entrances down here, although I'm still very unsure of what to do with the interior. I mean, we have a pretty large space, so we could do something really cool inside. But first, I need your ideas, so be sure to let me know in the comments. Next up, I want to start working on the bakery just here. Oh, but first, let me just quickly show you this one down here, because I also done the interior for it, but I forgot to show it on video. So this is the flower shop, and as you can see, I tried to make it pretty colourful and even added a nice red countertop over here. I also added these books which could have details about certain plants, but overall I think it turned out really nice down here. Upstairs I made a fairly simple living space with a kitchen, a table, a fireplace, and even a little bedroom to sleep in. But overall, I really love how this build has turned out. And from back here, you can see that new building really does add a lot of structure to the village now. Even the view from down here just looks great. Anyway, I am getting super low on dark oak, so let's quickly grab a few stacks. And maybe some spruce as well. Ooh, looks like I am pretty low actually. But hopefully that'll be enough for now though. So let's remove the grass and get in some jungle planks for the floor. And now I think I'm ready for the bakery. So let's do this. Now, the only thing missing is some cakes, so let's quickly craft a few, and maybe some iron frames for some details, which should help add a nice finishing touch to the bakery. So let's place down the cakes, and maybe some iron frames with some bread inside. Man, it would be so cool to have more placeable 3D food items. I mean, interiors could be so much more detailed if we did. Anyway, I think things are looking pretty good down here, and we even have a staff room and storage upstairs, which is fairly basic, but I think it does the job for now. Outside the bakery, I want to add some detail, so let's remove some of the bricks and replace that with some granite for texture. Maybe some iron bars around the edge, with some azalea in front. And for the tables, I'll place down redstone torches, pistons, and before I finish the tables, let's just add a few fences on top of the azalea, maybe some campfires going around, which of course I will put out, and then we can hang some glowberries underneath for detail. Now I can place down some of the campfires for some chairs, and make some of those cool looking umbrellas like we did for the tavern. But this time, I'm gonna make them red instead. Oh my gosh, this looks so awesome. Honestly, I wasn't too sure about using the spruce, but I actually think it looks really cool. So, with that all in place, I think it's time for some detailing. And I was thinking maybe a big tree would look good somewhere here, maybe another one over there by the bridge, and then maybe a smaller one over here by the fishing hut, which means I'm gonna need a lot more leaves. And I mainly need the acacia leaves, so let's find a savanna. Well, that was a lot closer than I remember. Anyway, let's get some leaves. Okay, I should have more than enough now, so you know the drill, let's do this. I love adding trees to my worlds, they just add so much detail, but they can be tough to build in survival, so I always like to build them in creative first before building them in my actual world. That way I can make sure that I'm happy with them before actually building them and make sure that they fit my current ideas. These ones took me quite a while to design, but overall I'm really happy with how they look. I started by adding the two larger trees first and then added the smaller tree over by the hut once I was done. Once the trees were all in place, I started working on some crop fields, laying out some bushes to surround the fields, and then added some water sources before tilling the soil and finally planting the crops to finish them. I made each field different, adding a beetroot field, potato field, and a carrot field for now, but I have a lot more fields planned for later. Finished off a little area by the water's edge, adding in a bunch of foliage to finish it off. And then built a simple little fisherman's boat to add some detail to the dock. Then I was going to stop there, but the terrain was really bugging me. So I grabbed a bunch of grass and dirt blocks and then got to work leveling out the area, figuring out where I wanted to add my paths and crop fields. It took several hours for me to get the landscape to look half decent, as I burned my way through most of my supplies. But there is still a lot more terraforming to come, but it certainly looks a lot better than it did. So once that was all in place, I set to work on the farmland, laying out a bunch of crop fields, which took forever to place the water sources and then turn the grass into farmland, but it looked so much better once it was done. In some of the fields I used flowers as I felt they resembled crops, plus they helped add a little bit of extra colour to the town. The beetroot took the longest as I barely had any seeds, which meant a lot of planting and breaking in order to get more. But finally, the area is looking awesome. There is still a lot of empty land, but I love the way the village is shaped up and I'm feeling super inspired to keep building. But for now, let me know in the comments what build ideas do you want to see in next episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.